You're listening to Morning Light on Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. It's the first Friday of the month, and that means it's time to welcome back Chris Hall to the program with his suggestions in the latest What to Read feature. And this time round, he's joined by Kai Bergen with their kids' picks. Hello to you both.
Hello, Simon.
Hey.
Chris, just before we get to this month's selections, let me say once again that you and the team at McNally really do have a pulse on what to read, as more of your past picks were awarded top prizes at the Writers' Trust Awards this past week. Katharina Vermette and Thompson Highway were among the winners. Congrats! Is that
Well, thank you. Thank you for noticing. I always like to see that, of course. But yes, I mean, both of them particularly deserving. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And another notch in the belt as you inch closer to bookseller of the world. So
That's right.
Kai, it's also great to have you back on the show. Do you share similar aspirations in the children's YA book world to become the bookseller of the world there?
Definitely. Yeah, I have to say there have been more than a couple times where I featured a book and it didn't sell super strongly, or not as strongly as I wanted. And then later on it won an award and I felt vindicated.
Excellent. So and I'm so glad that you've joined us, because now people can get the scoop. They can get there ahead of time. So let's jump right into it. What have you picked?
Okay, so I have two books and they are in different age groups as per usual. So the first one that I have is called Gladys, the Magic Chicken. It is a picture book by Adam Rubin and Adam Rex, maybe my two favorite Adams in the picture book world. I'm going to show it to you, although the people who are listening can't see it, but I need you to see it because it's incredible.
Yeah, it's very impressive. I know we're not supposed to judge books by covers, but I feel like maybe picture books, it's slightly different, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you know, the cover gives you a good idea of what it looks like on the inside with a picture book. So this is an epic tale of Gladys the Magic Chicken, who lived in olden times, and the varying adventures that this chicken goes on, granting people's wishes, perhaps, or maybe it's just a coincidence. Who knows?
Oh, it sounds absolutely captivating. A magic chicken, and the adventure that they go on. And I think you've got another adventure pick queued up.
I do, in fact. So the second book that I have is for the 8 to 12 age range, although maybe it's just 8+. I don't really think there's an upper age limit for this book. It's called Pony, which is the newest book by author superstar R.J. Palacio, who wrote Wonder. And this is the first book by Palacio that is not tied in any way to Wonder. So this book is a sort of Western ghost story adventure following a boy and his ghost companion named Mittenwool, who, with a strange-looking pony, are trying to rescue the boy's father from some outlaws.
Sounds like quite the adventure that they must go on. And yeah, it sounds. How I mean, you mentioned there's no kind of upper age limit on this book. How does it read? Is it rather easy reading and engaging that way for readers of all kind of YA ages?
Well, it really feels to me like a classic. So it doesn't talk down to the reader. It definitely has some vocabulary that makes it feel like of a certain time, if you know what I mean. Like it uses big words sometimes, so it might be difficult for a younger reader to get their head around it, but the story is such that it really draws you in.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for those picks. Chris, let's jump over into the adult world. Where do you want to start things?
Well, I'm going to start with my latest favorite novel, Still Life by Sarah Winman. The unfortunate thing is, perhaps you've heard news reports about supply chain issues. Unfortunately, at the last minute here, we've found out that Still Life is going to be delayed until the end of December 28th. And so I'm going to have to speak about this. Get your pre-orders in. It's unfortunate. She was going to be our author of the month. We had a virtual event lined up. But anyway, she's got some previous novels that you could get your hands on, and I recommend all of them. When God Was a Rabbit is one, A Year of Marvelous Ways, Tin Man. And this new novel is, it's a really lovely story. It covers the time between the Second World War and the 1980s. Main character is named Ulysses Temper. And he's a soldier in the war. When it opens, he meets a middle-aged art historian named Evelyn Skinner. And their stories come together and they drift apart and they come together. And they come together towards the end back in Tuscany and Florence after a devastating flood. And that happens in the 60s. It's a novel that covers love and war and art. There's the presence, or at least the influence, of E.M. Forster, but it wears all these ideas very lightly. It's really one of those novels where you fall into the characters and their lives. And what I found more striking is the characters are just really kind and generous to each other, and the author's kind and generous to them too. They're not light and fluffy. They're going through real challenges, but I found the generosity and the kindness really really nice, I guess, right now.
Yeah, I think it's something that we can all use more of, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Generosity and kindness, but especially given the last year and a half and the situation we've all found ourselves in. And it's one of those books that we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that
Yes,
generosity and
unfortunately.
kindness, but we'll have you back on in January to remind us that the book has hopefully, fingers crossed, arrived.
Yes.
Where are we
All
going next?
Well, next is another one of the authors that I read all of his new books. It's called Our Country Friends. It's by Gary Steingart. He's written books, Russian Debutante's Handbook, Super Sad True Love Story, Absurdistan. And this novel is about 8 friends from New York City. They gather in a country house in March 2020, and they're escaping from COVID-19. And over the next 6 months, their new friendships and romances take hold, old grievances are aired. But overall, the characters are just granted some time to evaluate their lives. And this isn't a new idea. It's actually, he's rewriting a classic book from the 14th century by a fellow named Giovanni Boccaccio from Italy. And he wrote a book called The Decameron, which was where 10 young people escaped Florence, and they're escaping the Black Death. So this is updating, modernizing. And so Steingart tells that classic book, but he spins it towards contemporary issues. It's very funny and satirical because that's what he does, but it's poignant and meaningful because he's a very good writer. It's really kind of timely.
Yeah, it sounds really fascinating, especially as you point out with that tie back to the 14th century. And it sounds like a very interesting cast of characters too,
Yes,
that assemble at this house and the friendships that develop. So definitely one that I'm going to go ahead and mark down. And you've got one more pick for us, The Power of Geography.
Yes, switch over to nonfiction. The subtitle of this book, 10 Maps That Reveal the Future of the World. And it's by a fellow named Tim Marshall. Tim Marshall has written a previous book called The Prisoners of Geography, and that was 10 maps that explain everything about the world. So if the new book is a follow-up. So if the first book told about the world the way it is, the new book explains how the world will be. And he bases his arguments in geography and literally the maps that you can look at it from above, as it were. And the country's geography, they explain a lot of what roles they will play, what opportunities and challenges they will face. And some of these 10 places, he argues, are poised to become a bigger influence than you might expect, I guess. Australia is the first example, which, because of where it is in the world, it's very close to China, but it's that Western democracy, liberal democracy. And so it's going to, we've already seen it in the agreement with the US for nuclear submarines, that it's going to play a bigger role than it used to. Other influential places are Saudi Arabia, Spain, Greece, and space, all because of where they are and some of their other physical attributes. So it's a great gift for map lovers, first and foremost, but also anyone interested in politics and getting a kind of larger perspective on the headlines that we read every day. It's I think perspective is the word that I come back to.
Yeah, it sounds like a very gripping read.
It is very good. Yeah, you get some history, but yeah, you get a real sense of what the world, what's happening in the world, I guess.
Yeah, and what could happen too, right?
Yes.
So thank you both, as always, for taking the time to chat with me here at Winnipeg's Classic 107. We'll get the picks up on the website, classic107.com. You can always visit McNallyRobinson.com as well. Until next month, Chris, Kai, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, Simon.
Thanks for having us.